Well, welcome everybody. This is IEPrep.com, and my name is Anthony Sequeira, and I am so thrilled that we have students in the live session today. We are going to be talking about the top 10 things that I wish I knew at the CCNA level. This presentation has been rattling around in my head ever since I started the IE Prep. We have number 10. And number 10 is the power of hands-on practice. And as I think about it, this should probably be higher up the list, right? But boy, oh boy, is this true. I mean, how many times have you discovered that you thought you knew something and then you go to configure it on the equipment and you realize you don't know it? You don't know it as well as you thought you did. The power of hands-on practice just cannot be emphasized enough. Not only to learn the features, but also just as that kind of checkbox, that confirmation that you do know it, that great feeling of security, right? That you actually do know the technology that you are working with. You have it better than ever. In fact, when you go to folks that have been around Cisco certification for a real long time, and maybe they haven't been visiting the Cisco cert world, they will be blown away. They will be so incredibly jealous of the options for hands-on practice that you have at your disposal. When I was putting this presentation together, I just brainstormed a couple. Packet Tracer, EVE-NG, GNS3, CML, dCloud, DevNet, eBay, Public Cloud. I could have kept going, but I was just like, all right, let me spend 60 seconds and let me come up with the, kind of primary ones, my favorite ones, etc. And notice in just 60 seconds, I was able off the top of my head to come up with 8 options. I was hanging out with Don Pizzette, and Don Pizzette is one of the greats in our industry. He's one of the 2 owners of IT Pro TV, and Don Pizzette is a Linux, he is in the top 3 Linux trainers I've ever seen in the world. And Don was watching me give a presentation for him. I believe, it was on the Cisco application-centric infrastructure. And he saw me using dCloud to demonstrate it for students. And after the class, he pulled me aside and he said, I cannot believe the world that you have accessible to you today. He hadn't been really hardcore in Cisco in about, 10 years. And he was just like, I can't believe it. I mean, he was just so thrilled to see that hands-on is more popular than ever, and not more popular, but more accessible than ever. Also, one quick note, don't forget, on Packet Tracer, a lot of people don't realize this, but what's so exciting about Packet Tracer is the fact that we're now not breaking the law when we use it. And, many don't even realize they ever were. They're like, what do you mean? Well, if you were using Packet Tracer 10 years ago and you were not a Network Academy student, technically you were violating the licensing of that product. And we know one of the just revolutionary things that Cisco did, thank goodness, was they went ahead and they made that fully licensed and legal for anyone, not just a Network Academy student. So that is wonderful. And if you weren't aware of that, spend a few minutes today going up to the Network Academy, and you need to register for a little Packet Tracer course. And what's funny is you don't even really need to go through the course. You could just register for it, open it, watch for a couple of minutes, and then go get your downloadable Packet Tracer, and you'll be fully licensed. So that is just an incredible, incredible thing. Well, number 9, I sure wish I had spent some time really zeroing in on how I learn best. I This is going to be very funny for some of you, but I got to be honest, I don't learn well through video. Oh, the painful irony. Here I established my entire career. My whole career is really, the foundation of it is video creation, and it is the least effective way for me to learn. So early on in your Cisco career, really start making note of how you do learn best. What is most enjoyable to you? What is most efficient for you? And zero in on that best approach for you and do that, of course, most of the time. Just put a few things to consider here on screen, like having discussions about technology in a community, reading, practicing, watching, note taking, mind mapping. Do you know that I still have not done a mind map? How pathetic is that? And if someone wants to give me a hint in chat about what the coolest, best way to start that is, I'd be interested. I don't even know what software is considered best these days. I would hope it's free software to do our mind mapping. Yep, never once created. So how stupid is that? Mind mapping might be absolutely perfect for me, and I've never even given it a chance. It may be a really key ingredient that could really bolster my prep of study that I'm doing now, which, as you might guess, is Splunk. I'm studying Splunk 6 to 8 hours a day. And so maybe mind mapping is something that I need to consider. Irvan says, great point. Very underrated, this analysis of how do you best study. Jerry says, I'm the opposite. I learn better with video and reinforce with book material. Sandro says, Cornell notes are also useful. Wow. Whew, all right. And iMindQ is a mind map application that Jerry C. would recommend. Jerry, thank you. So, all right, I'm excited. After the presentation today, I'm going to be looking up Cornell notes, which I've never heard of, and iMindQ, which is a mind map app. Awesome. Yeah, I got to figure out, are there ways that I can improve upon my study effectiveness and efficiency? And by the way, Jerry said that he's the opposite of me. The videos make the basis for his study, and then he reinforces with book material. And to Jerry, I say, thank you, because us video content creators sure love to hear that. But isn't it interesting? That's why it's so dangerous when there's someone out there saying, I have the way you need to pass CCNA or CCNP or CCIE, and they're very inflexible in what they're saying you have to do, right? Because I bet you, it really is amazing. Let me just go on a quick CCIE specific example here. How many times have you talked to someone that's a CCIE and they go, all you need to do is X, right? Peter Lapukov, who I talk about all the time, I used to train alongside him at INE. Peter Lapukov was a great example of this. I said, so what do I need to do to get my, I was a route switch CCIE at the time, and I think I was asking about the security CCIE. And Peter Lapukov said, oh yeah, the security CCIE, that's easy. All you need is the documentation. That's all you need is the Cisco documentation. And he was serious. That's all he used. That's it. Not a single book, not a single video, not a single white paper. If it wasn't in the Cisco documentation, he had not used it for CCIE security preparation. Would that work for me? No, probably not. I would certainly base a lot of my learning around the Cisco documentation, but not all of it. So there's no one size fits all. Watch out. Number 8, and this one is going to require audience participation because, again, I was putting this presentation together and I spent, a few moments thinking about what commands did I wish I knew early on, and I came up with just 2. I know. I was doing this early in the morning, and I should have been smart enough to know that I don't do well in the morning when it comes to creative brain power, but I want the audience to help me with this. I need you to go to the chat inside our WebEx here, and I need you to chat in your, oh my gosh, I wish I had known this command early on. I just thought of another one, the debug IP routing command. Wow, I wish I had known about debug IP routing early on in my Cisco career, because that really would have helped me to learn all of this technology that involves the routing table that much faster. So there's a third entry for me, debug IP routing. The do command, I wish I had known about that early on. Now, in fairness to myself, the do command was not even invented when I was doing my CCNA. So that one's a little sketchy because it didn't even exist when I was a CCNA. But, it's been around for a while now, and it sure is incredibly powerful. The default interface command, I will never forget the day that someone showed me the default interface command. That can be so incredibly valuable. And one case that comes to mind is the classic, we put this beautiful configuration in the device and we put it on the wrong interface. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get it on the right interface, and I need to get that interface back to how it was. And the default interface command comes to the rescue. Well, our audience is quiet, so no one can. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, right as I said that, they came flooding in. I love it. Tim Lee says, show interfaces transceiver detail. Wow, show interfaces transceiver detail. All right. The Irfan says the default interface for the first time recently was used, and he loved it. That's great. Jerry says, in the beginning, using the proper show command to view config settings. Oh, Jerry, that's such a great point. That's such a great point. I remember not too long ago, believe it or not too long ago, I learned the section modifier. And many of you have seen me do that, right? You know I love it. It's show run pipe section BGP. And then it shows you just the BGP section of the running configuration. And if you do it for like OSPF and you've got interface level config, it shows you the interface level config as well. So yeah, those variations of show commands that can be so incredibly powerful. Another one that I always forget about, but I use now and then, is show run all, right? When you want to see you want to see all of the config, including those commands that are the default. And oftentimes there's so many that you want to kind of qualify that one. So you could do show, run, all, pipe, include BGP. And now you're going to see just those commands, and there'll be a lot of them that are in place by default, as well as evident in the configuration for Border Gateway Protocol. So yeah, we came up with a lot more than just two. Test cable diagnostics TDR interface is recommended by Tim Lee. Notice that a lot of the commands our students are suggesting today are very much production commands. Yeah, they're not only going to be useful in our studies, but very useful in production. All right. Well, we are at number 8. What is up next? Number 7, the power of community. Boy, oh boy, I wish I had accepted this early on. You see, I tend to be, or have been, a bit of a loner when it comes to certification. So it's definitely how I started out. I'm getting better at this and realizing the power of community more and more all the time today. IE Prep is a celebration of the power of community. But yeah, I wish I had embraced this early on. Yeah, found a great community, maybe the Cisco Learning Network, or maybe some Reddit thing, or maybe some what's that other website for IT that's forum based, Spice World or Spice Works or something like that. I mean, yeah, I was just this lone wolf, and I thought that the way to go was to stay siloed and focused and block out anyone that might be trying to help me. Now, you really have to experiment with communities. So, you're paying. Well, Sandro isn't. Congratulations, Sandro. But most of you are paying, right? You're paying for community with ieprep.com, and that is going to have a huge advantage. What's one of the advantages of your paid participation in the community here at ieprep.com? Well, I'm going to be blunt and pardon my French, but if we get an asshole, I kick them out. So that's the power of a moderated, paid for, in our case, community. You are guaranteed not to encounter an asshole because they get kicked out. Now, in a Reddit environment, or even in a, Reddit's moderated, I think. Cisco Learning Network is certainly moderated, but the moderators, and yeah, Facebook community groups. Yes, I haven't joined one of those. And I know like Network Chuck has one. I'm sure it's great. David Bombal has one. I mean, there's lots of great. How about Twitch? Twitch is really catching on from a certification standpoint, and there's great stuff going on Twitch. So a lot of these might be moderated, but just watch out because the moderators are not going to have a quick trigger finger like I will. So someone can be kind of a jerk and they're going to get away with it. There's set rules that if they violate, then they get kicked out. If they're cursing or if they're trying to sell you a product and things like that. But in a lot of them, they can be kind of a jerk. And yeah, that's not going to be, no one's going to say anything to them. Maybe they'll get flamed by other members of the community, but you get the idea. Just like anything else, probably no one size fits all here. So you're going to need to join some communities, start experimenting with it, and see if it's for you. Number 6, failure is part of the process. You see, when I arrived at CCNA, I had never failed an exam, ever. I mean, thinking back to my private pilot work, I hadn't failed an exam. I hadn't failed an exam in college. I hadn't failed an exam in high school. I had failed an exam in elementary school, but we're not going to go back that far, so it doesn't count. So I had not experienced failure. And then all of a sudden, failures started happening. It's kind of famous that I failed the CCIE lab exam 4 times before I passed on the 5th attempt, but I'm not talking about failure there. I knew that failure was part of the CCIE lab exam process. I'm talking about failures that I experienced well before that. Failing the written qualification exam. And before that, failing one of the CCNP routing and switching exams. And before that, failing one of the NP security track exams. So, yeah, failure is part of the process. And I wish I had known that and embraced that early on. Certainly would have helped. Number 5, the power of staged configurations. Yeah. I want to get in the time machine and go back and do it different. Wow. One of the stories you might have heard me tell before is I noticed how ridiculously fast and skilled I was at everything involving layer 2. And one of the reasons this had occurred is because I wasn't being smart with stage configurations, and I was needlessly building layer 2 again and again and again and again. And I say needlessly. It was wasting my time at that point to practice and build layer 2. So you hear me recommend this a lot in IEPrep.com, and that is to really do the upfront work of staging configurations. This applies to Packet Tracer. It applies to GNS3, EVE-NG, CM. I don't care what you're using. You will want to think through and build various topologies at various levels of configuration, save them, properly name them so they make great sense to you. And now when someone says to you, hey, there's a cool BGP feature you need to know, and you want to experiment with it, you can go into your repository of stage configurations and you can grab an existing pre-built border gateway protocol topology and configuration with all these great sample prefixes and all this stuff already built, and you can quickly and efficiently start experimenting with the BGP feature that you were told about. Thanks to the power of save as, once you implement that new BGP configuration, you can save that as a staged configuration. And now, if you want to add features on top of what you just did, you're going to be able to do that easily down the road. Oh my gosh, I would kill to have all that work that I was doing over and over and over again. I'd kill to have all that time back. I'd kill right now to have some central repository of every config I ever built. I'm only partially kidding there. All right, number 4, all study sessions are not created equal. Funny story. I was at an Arizona Diamondbacks Major League Baseball game with some buddies, and I brought with me Jeff Doyle's Routing TCP/IP Volume 1. So here I enter the ball game at the Major League Baseball stadium, and I'm carrying this 50-pound ginormous textbook. And everyone that I was with was laughing. They knew right away what was up. I don't care one iota. I don't care in the slightest about the Arizona Diamondbacks. I know baseball can be a little bit tedious as a spectator sport. So I figured, you know what? If it gets really boring for me, I'm going to go ahead and study. And I did do some reading during that long, boring baseball game. But I can't say that that study session was equivalent to me studying in my optimal environment, a distraction-free, hyper-focused environment. So we really need to zero in on this. We need to recognize that sometimes because of the environment and the way we feel physically and mentally, we could be at the studies for 4 hours, but if we had switched it up and done it better in a more optimal environment and setting, we probably could have gotten more done in just 1 hour. So, yeah, all study sessions are not created equal. And I forgot to tell you the punchline about my story involving the baseball game. So fast forward about 10 years, maybe even 15 years, and I am at this event and oh my gosh, I think it was a baseball game. Crazy enough, I think it was a baseball game. Yeah, that's why I absolutely just died about this. I'm at this game, and one of my peers, who I've known for decades, is studying for his CCIE, and he has a book at the game. And I just died laughing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was there right where you're at. I recognized it as a CCIE level study text, and that's what he was up to. Number 3, and notice we're getting what I considered to be even more important. Number 3 is the power of Cisco documentation. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I wish I had known this early on. What would I do when needing some documentation assistance? Well, I would go in and I would just, I would do this, right? I would Google search. So I would go in and I would just say, Cisco OSPF interface configuration. And then I would come in here, and how many times are we sent down a rabbit hole in the documentation this way? I mean, what often happens is you end up just, at this free blog post on someone that's walking you through this, and it might not be the best source material you could be using. So I just wish early on I had embraced what all of you in the audience right now, I recognize all of you would know what I'm about to do because you've seen me do it a million times. The power of starting right here, the all products support page. Starting right here and manually finding the information that you need by clicking through the documentation links like this is incredibly powerful. And one of the many reasons this is, I won't belabor the point, one of the many reasons this is the fact that you are going to have in your CCIE lab exam, you're going to have access to this exact page right here. So in the lab exam, you'll have this page and all of the internal links for all of this software and hardware. And it's an open book test. It's available for you. And so that is one of many, many reasons I wish I had embraced this and mastered the documentation early on. I want my CCIE students to be able to be this fast. If I say, get me the configuration guide for OSPF, I want them to be able to come in here and get it for me as quickly as I'm about to demonstrate. And notice I'm struggling right now because I picked a documentation section that is not going to give me what I want. So let me just drop back to where, I know I would be looking. So remember, I said I want the configuration guide for OSPF, and I want you to be able to find it this quickly. Okay? So there we have it. Now, another reason I emphasize the mastery of the Cisco documentation is when we look at this document, configuring OSPF, as an example, we discover that more often than not, exams are built directly out of this documentation. Yeah. The exam authors at Cisco are going to their own documentation to build the exam questions. So what better place to study than the source of the exam information? So, wow, the power of the Cisco documentation. I wish I had embraced that early on. Number 2, the importance of balance. Oh my goodness. When I embraced how, and already a student saying, what the heck is that? Ha ha ha. When I embraced the importance of balance, along with the fact that not all study sessions are created equal, that's when I really started thriving. And that's when I really started making great gains in my knowledge and my success. So my CCIE study schedule was then carefully modified to incorporate balance. Wednesday night, no studying and planned family and friend time. Sunday, all day, all night. Just like, a famous biblical reference, Sunday, no Cisco. It says that right in the Bible. Sunday, no Cisco. You can find it. So, yeah, that's how it was. That forcing of balance made such an incredible difference. By the way, a little kind of way in which you've experienced that, I guarantee you, is how many times have you been in a practice lab and you absolutely cannot get some feature working right? You're pulling your hair out. You're ready to throw the laptop through a window when all of a sudden you realize, let me just look at this later. And you go outside and you do whatever, walk the dog, go for a walk, just go outside and do something different. Just change your environment. You come back an hour later, you sit down at the gear and you immediately isolate and fix the problem. This is a little mini depiction of the importance of balance, and it magnifies on the scale that we're talking about, taking an entire day off from technology. Yeah, those kinds of things will make a huge difference. And that brings us to the number one thing that I wish I knew as a CCNA level person, and that was to slow down in order to speed up. What do I mean about this recommendation? What am I saying here? Really, what am I saying? We've all heard slow down to speed up, probably, this cutesy little expression, but what does it really mean for us? Well, for me, it means I wish I had studied the topics with the attention that they deserved, aimed at future knowledge and certification. What I did a lot of, Jerry says he has problems with 1 and 2, but he's working on them. Love it. What I did a lot of, Jerry, was I did a lot of, all right, what the hell do I have to know to get through the CCNP route exam as quickly as possible? I started to become obsessed with how quickly I could obtain the certifications. This was one of the biggest reasons it took me so long, so many attempts, so much money to pass the CCIE. One of the many reasons that I'll be sharing with you all. It was because I had gaps. I had chinks in the armor. I had missing bricks in the foundation. And it was because I had blazed through much of the study and much of the prerequisite exam passing, and I hadn't really learned those topics and technologies the way I should have. I would encounter something difficult and I would go, screw it. I don't care. You know what? I'll get it eventually. That's not going to come up on my test. Or if it does come up on my test, I know enough of all the other technologies where I'll pass. And this just became habitual. And it happened again and again and again that I was going too fast through the material. Slow down, and you're going to speed up very, very much your later processes. And Irfan says, feels like you're talking directly to me, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. Yeah, this was a huge problem for me. You all know how I operate. I move fast. I move fast. And sometimes, it's so important to slow down in order to speed up. And I'm starting to do this. Now, when I download the objectives for a certification exam, oh my gosh, I'll spend hours poring over those objectives, reading them extremely carefully. Where do I just need to know theory? Where do I need to know configuration? Where do I need to know verification? I'll then build a study tracker. I will then make notes in the study tracker. I will then compile the list of materials for hands-on. I will just do all of this stuff in preparation for mastery, where before it was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn Splunk Enterprise. Give me the book, give me the book, give me the book. I'm just going to read the book. Read the book. Go take the test. Go take the test. Read the book. What do I need to know? Just shortcut, 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 shortcut. And this led to gaps in my knowledge, gaps in my understanding. Well, I'm sure after this presentation, you're going to be driving or sitting on public transportation or taking a walk, and you're going to think about a top 10 that you wish you had known that is not on this list. And what I'd like you to do, if you would be so kind, is share that with the community. Yep, share that with the community. And you're going to be able to do that by commenting on this page in your content. Yeah, a feature of ieprep.com that we have not taken enough advantage of, I don't think, is how there is the comments area. It's like a forum within a forum for each and every piece of content posted in ieprep.com. So as you think of concepts that I did not have in my top 10 list, you can pop them right into the page of the recorded content. And by the way, I think I'm going to take the time later today to take the recording of this event and fix it so that the slides actually show up. It's going to take me a little bit of effort, but it'll really help the recording. And I apologize to our live attendees today who had to sit there on the title slide for the first 15 minutes. So a question for me from the audience is, how long did it take you to come out of that habit, this number one, slowing down to speed up? I'm embarrassed to tell you that many of these I've just within like the last 6 months achieved. So it took a long time for me to develop some of this. And you know why? Because I've been going so fast, I haven't even paused to think about any of this. So that is why I was so excited to give this presentation today. I realized, it's going to benefit me greatly to go through these aspects of things that really would have jump-started and propelled my career so much faster. Well, thank you so much for your attendance in this ieprep.com live WebEx session. And I cannot wait for the next one. I hope you are as excited as I am. And I'm going to be doing that most likely tomorrow or the next day. And I'll get better at my new equipment. I promise you that. Sandro says, I did this during Network Plus, which protracted the time to obtain the cert, but then helped enormously with CCNA. Right. You slowed down early, and then that dramatically sped you up later on. That's the way to go. Let's spend that time up front and then achieve those benefits later on. I love it. Well, thanks so much for your attendance and participation, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you for sure within 48 hours here in our live WebEx training platform at ieprep.com. Thanks again, everyone.